guys. And give everybody a couple of minutes to get in here. We don't have any electricity here tonight. Not yet. It is storming like nobody's business. Trying to find something to brighten it up. Hey, it's just me. There, that might help some. Let's see. Here we go. Try that. I was sleeping good and the storm got so bad it woke me up. The thunder got, just really bad. All the clouds just covered the moon, so we didn't really get a good view of the pink moon tonight. I am feeling better after a good long nap. Well, I don't have that problem, except with Miss Cookie, the snoring dog. She gets pretty loud sometimes. And sometimes she gets so loud that I'll think there's somebody else in the house and it'll scare me. I'm like, is that a grown man? Just for the dogs. And then sometimes I don't think I hear it all, and I can play back a video and I'm thinking, yeah, but everybody else can hear her for sure. I guess I'm just kind of immune to hearing her. Well, the channel's, it's growing. It's not growing fast, but we're growing at a slow and steady pace, which is good. Slow and steady wins the race eventually. I would rather have slow and steady, and as I've said before, those are usually reliable subs that stick with you. Not subs that turn around and stab you in the eye 5 minutes later. So I would rather have these slow and steady growth. However, I'm going to say this. I do try to cover a case from all the angles. Even the ridiculousness that the people believe. And maybe I go in too far describing the ridiculousness sometimes in what they believe. But sometimes that is very important to a case, to understand the cult-like mentality. In a true crime case. And that's why I try to bring that. But sometimes while bringing that, you get that borderline. I leave the door open sometimes for the borderline ridiculousness that comes with that. And I think with the last live, I may have left it open as to mean that I believed in that ridiculousness. And I don't believe in any sort of organized religion. I hate organized religion because the older I get, the more of this that I see. And I was raised in church. I was raised with religion being shoved down my throat. And maybe, that's the problem. All my family were preachers and deacons and this, that, and the fourth. And then when I was in college, I would take the religion scholarships. But as we grew up, we would argue about who had to pick Grandpa up for church on Sunday. And everybody hated picking Grandpa up for church. And here's why. And Grandpa was in his right mind. By the time I was old enough to have a family of my own, and it come around to me to have to pick Grandpa up for church, Grandpa was already in his late 90s at the time. And Grandpa had no problem standing up in the pews, and he would tell the preacher, he would say, "Preacher, you are wrong." And preacher, stop telling the people that because you've got things twisted, tell it right. And we would all get so embarrassed. So we would argue amongst ourselves. No, it's your turn to take Grandpa to church this week. No, it's your turn. But it always come down to somebody had to pick Grandpa up for church and take him. But he would stand up and he'd say, "Brother, that's not the way the Bible tells it. You're twisting it." And I understand that now because the older I get, I see the individuals twist that to fit their needs and their narratives. Didn't understand it at the time, but I understand it now. He was absolutely right. And that was the difference in the old time religion when he was a kid and coming up, and the way that they were already twisting the narrative then and twisting it to fit their need and their need to conform their herd to their way of thinking. And now it's 100 times worse. And I hate that, And then I seen a time come around to where they started installing ATM machines. in the churches. And that's when I took a step back. And I thought, this is something that I do not want to be a part of. When you walked through the first set of glass doors, before you could walk into the main sanctuary, there was an ATM machine installed between each set of double doors into the main sanctuary. And there was an ATM machine installed. And there was also a place where you could pay with a card. I thought, this was something I do not want to be a part of. And this is wrong. There was just something that felt wrong about it. And I left the church. Well, I started talking to other family members about it. And I had some family down in Mobile, Alabama. And one of my uncles said, oh yeah, we got the ATM machines about 5 years ago. It's great. Well, he was a deacon in his church. Of course, he thought it was great. I didn't think that it was so great. Because the freedom of worshiping your God should not cost you at the door. I have heard it said that it costs so much for Don Wells and them to even attend that church right off the top of the bat, for them to even be members of that church. Not just the tithes, but a membership fee. That it's so much of their income. That is wrong in so many ways. I understand that you should tithe to keep up the church. You know, the church needs repairs. There's an electricity bill that has to be paid. I understand the basic needs. Of a church. But I do not understand the need for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of profit. Non-taxable. And then when they do these evil deeds that they do, it's not just blamed on the Luciferians. It's not just blamed on the Satanists. It's blamed on paganry as a whole. And there is so many different types of paganry that it is not fair to lump it all into one. You know, it's fair to say not all pagans are Luciferian or Satanist or occultist, just like it's fair to say not all religions are Catholic, not all religions are Baptist, not all religions are Seventh day Adventist. Further back in my family's ancestry, you know, my grandmother's side, they were all Native American. And I remember, you know, my grandmother practicing her Native American religion. Well, that is what I decided to go with. And that is what I still practice. Now, is that saying that I don't believe in God? No, that's not what I said. It's not what I said at all, because the Native Americans believed that there was one creator. But there has been people on YouTube recently refer to that as being a heathen, and I take offense to that. I will look at anything that anybody asks me to look at, but don't ask me to look at something if you don't want my honest opinion on it either. When you ask me to look at something, I'm not just going to agree with you to appease you. If I don't see what you see, don't come back and attack me for it. If I don't see what you see, don't say that I'm targeting you because I don't agree with what you see. Exactly, Brock. I had somebody in a live the other night ask me to come look at something that she thought she was seeing. And when I said no, I don't see what you were seeing, the next thing out of her mouth was, well, you're targeting me. No, I'm not. I just do not see what you are seeing. How is that targeting you? Because I don't take 100% agreement with you on what you are seeing. If you say, I see an alien, and I say, well, I don't see it, does that mean that that alien wasn't there? No, it means that I did not see it. That's exactly what I said, was I did not see it. I did not say you are crazy. I did not say you are seeing things. What I said was, I did not see it. I would like to think that the way that I run my page, that I have, targeted no sub whatsoever, that I have always left my page open. I've left my comments open. And I'm willing to hear anything. Um, well, there is a video on my page, Brief Mythology, of how it's all the flood stories are connected. I've got a video there. I have a minor myself. Right now, I'm just speaking on how I try to treat everybody with fairness. I have spoke to the TBI many times. I have spoke with Hawkins County many times. So when people come over here and go, well, why don't you take this to the TBI? Why don't you take this to the TBI? In all fairness, ask yourself, do you not think that I have not spoken to the TBI? But to take ridiculousness to the TBI? No, I'm not going to do that. If it is not hardcore evidence or something that I feel is very important, I'm not going to bother those people. I've put up a video where the TBI has put out statements that they are not taking any more tips from social media at all, no matter what it is. I have put out videos where Hawkins County says they are not taking any more tips from social media, regardless of what it is. So if it's not something that they have not already heard 200 times, they are not going to take that tip. So you have to be very careful how many times you call those people and with what information that you take to them for them to even speak to you anymore. every time I release a video, it's, have you taken that to the TBI? Well, if it's important enough, don't you think that I did that before I released the video? Because I'm certainly not making money on YouTube. In 10 months, I have not even made $100, and that does not even pay for the software that I use to make the videos. And I'm not complaining, I am just stating fact. And if you have a tip, do not bring it to me. Call TBI. It's 1-800-TBI-FIND. Excuse me. Do not leave something on my page that says there is going to be a sarin attack on top of that hill where Don and Candace lives, and it's a Trojan horse, and then they're gonna flood the hill to try and find Summer. Call TBI. Look, why don't you call TBI with that? Because that is some crazy shit right there. I'm not trying to point anybody out, but I'm not calling TBI with that. And if that's the kind of tip you want to leave, why haven't you called TBI with that? Lisa, if you think that it is a legitimate tip, and your heart of hearts keeps pushing you to call, pick up the phone and call them. Because you don't want to wait 6 months down the road and then look back and say hindsight was 2020 and I should have called them. Because that case in Wisconsin is older than this case with Summer, and solving that case could very well put pressure on this case, especially since the same people are involved. If we could somehow get those two individuals in a hot box and detox them off of drugs, they might start talking. If they know anything. Right. Excuse me, guys. I need to go in here to the kitchen and try to get me a drink out the fridge. Not that they would be cold, since we don't have electricity right now. I do see that they've got some street lights back on outside. That's a good sign. Right. That means we're next. You usually doesn't take them too long to get us electricity back on because there's so many elderly people that lives around us that's dependent on oxygen and stuff like that. Hang on, guys. I need both hands to unscrew this Mountain Dew. All right, I'm back. This will be like our first good hard rain of this, what we would call spring. I know it's been April for a minute, but it's been cold up until this point. So this is washing all of our winter yuck away. And we'll have new blooms on everything. And pollen all over everything. Oh, I do too. I love a good hard rain. I like the thunder and the lightning. As long as it's not shaking the house. You know, for years I've thought, I just do not like grapefruit because I tried it as a kid and I just didn't like it. Well, I got a mixture of some citrus fruit the other day, and it had some chunks of grapefruit in it, and it was actually good. Oh, but I love old houses. I owned one for a long time that had the, when you went up the stairs, it had the closets that were kind of built into the side of the attic, and then you could go through the closets and up to the attic. It was like an old Civil War house. I loved that house. But it got, the heating bill got so high, and it was so hard to keep that house heated with gas. It got to where just to have the tank filled, the propane gas tank filled, was like 600, 700 bucks to have it filled. And I was like, And the kids was going to move out in a couple of years. And I was like, well, we'll just sell this house and get a smaller one. Now I've still got the wood floors. I love the way old wood floors creak when you walk across them. And that's your first, to me, that's my first line of defense. If somebody was to break in here, I would know it 5 minutes before they ever got back here to me because of the way the floors just sound. And I know every sound in this house when you step on the floors. I can hear it when somebody steps up on the porch. Well, I guess the old dog would be my first line of defense, but I can definitely tell every sound of this house the way the floors settle and creak. It is a built-in alarm system for sure. You don't need a loud one that sounds that you have to pay for when you live in the South. Most definitely. My daughter asked me the other day, Mom, you gonna have these floors refinished? Nope, gonna leave them just the way they are. I like them just the way they are. When I die, y'all can have them refinished. Do with them what you will. I'm actually thinking about selling this one and even getting something a little smaller though, but I kind of like this little house. But it's 3 bedroom and it's just me and the dog here. It's a lot of space. I don't ever plan on getting remarried. I don't ever plan on having, well, I can't have any more kids, but don't ever plan on kids being here, so. Well, you know, I lost one of my sons, so that definitely cut down the chances of having grandchildren. I appreciate it, but it's okay. I'm learning to live with it. It's really all a human can do is just learn to live with the conditions. My grandparents, they lost 3 children, 3 grown children. And I always thought, you know, gosh, how can they deal with, you know, losing 3 kids and outliving 3 of their children? And I realize now that it wasn't as easy as what they made it seem like it was, for sure. And I don't know that I could deal with losing all 3 of mine like that. One was bad enough. And now I've got one that's gone in the military all the time. But, you know, at least, even though he's gone all the time, I know that he's still alive, you know? Well, ask me, Miss Lupus. No, I've not heard of that, Brock. I'll look into it, though. Oh, man, them seizures are something else. I hate that. Are they teamed up again? I thought Sharon BK broke up a long time ago. I hope he gets better. I hate to hear that. I don't see how BK is not in jail, because I looked up the Tennessee code on tampering with any kind of investigation and trying to alter testimony or any kind of outcome of an investigation, and it's a Class C felony, what he seems to be doing. It is a Class C felony in Tennessee to interfere with an ongoing investigation. And I have seen where they are trying to get Candace to say, oh, well, how abused she is. You know, BK will get on there and go, oh, well, Candace was abused. And then Ernie will get on there and try to force her to talk about how abused she was. Well, I seen the abuse go both ways. I remember very well the recordings that I heard and I seen that was going on in that house. And Tim Mullins may very well be the media manager, and he is driving traffic to his search engines. He is driving and making money to his search engines. But it appears to me that Benny Keys is the assistant media manager, or the media manager. He is the one that's managing all the media for Candace since Dawn went to jail. And it doesn't matter to me which one of them beat her out of the Cash App money, whether it was Ernie or whether it was BK, because either way, she wasn't using it for the boys or for food or for any purpose that it was given to her for. It was going for drugs and alcohol. And I have spoke on the thousands of dollars that's being sent to him every day and every night. And people tell me to mind my own business, that they're going to send their money where they want to send their money to and who they're going to send their money to. And they don't seem to care that he's making $10,000 each live stream. And he's as far as I know, he has absolute no purpose for that money whatsoever. I mean, he's not putting it into a defense fund for her. He's not getting lawyers for her. The money's not being put up for the boys anywhere. So my question is why is people feeding that kind of money into one creator to create that kind of chaos around a case? And let me put it to you like this. Summer's reward fund is at $74,000, right? Just $74,000. But if somebody can make $10,000 a night per live stream, that means you could make as much as her reward fund is in 7 to 10 days. So if you're making that kind of money every 7 to 10 days, what would you possibly gain by letting a child's body be found? What reason would you have for wanting that child to be found? You're making more money by that child not being found. Where's the money going to come from after she's found? So if people would quit sending money, Summer may come up. If you would let them get desperate enough for money, her body might just come up. Or she may come up. Whatever the case may be. Well, you know, when I woke up tonight and I started going through YouTube, I ran across somebody else's live. And they had been releasing more stuff on the boys, and the boys testing positive for drugs or something was the reason that they got taken. Well, that did not come from a factual place. We don't know that to be factual. That didn't come from law enforcement. That did not come from CPS. The video that I put out months ago that said what happened the day the boys got gone, that come from a news source. That come from CPS. That's what we know happened the day the boys got gone. Anything else is just hearsay at this point. And more hoopla. And it doesn't need to be talked about because, like I've said before, those boys, especially the oldest one, is just a couple of years away from looking for a job. And every time his name is run through social media, this crap is going to pop up. And look, them kids are going to end up jumping off a roof somewhere. Lisa, what was put out, I have put out on a video, and it was hidden on the back page of a newspaper somewhere. And then it was put out I want to say it was WVTV, and it was just a very small paragraph. And basically, what it said was that CPS had been there helping with the boys. since the day summer had come up gone. And they had parked at the bottom of the hill that day. And when they were getting out of their car, they heard like these really loud scream. It went out in the beginning of the article. It said the boys had been having a really hard time dealing with summer being gone, and they had been fighting a lot. But when they were leaving their cars, they heard, just terrible screaming, and they went running up the hill. And whatever CPS found when they got to the top of the hill was enough for them to remove those children. And that was what was released by a news station. That's what CPS released to the news. And it was on the back page of a newspaper. Yeah. And that's what I released months ago. And it's on a video called The Day the Boys Got Gone. And that's the truth about what was put out. Period. And it's not much, but that's basically what it said. I don't remember word for word now what it was, but that was basically. And then Jody Sue had come out with the story that time, about the same time, of the boys fighting over a can of soup or a bowl of soup or something. And it come to my mind that might have been what they were screaming over and fighting over when CPS come up, was a bowl of soup. The 3 boys in one bowl of soup. Since, that was the story that she put out at the same time the boys come up gone. Because it certainly correlated with the screaming and the fighting that CPS had heard when they took off running up the hill, and whatever they found was enough for them to remove the boys immediately. And if they were all fighting over one can or one bowl of soup or whatever, then that makes more sense to me. But, that would lead to the parents being drug tested. Not having enough food in the house. But we all knew that they were dirty from the get-go. Oh my goodness. But if y'all will go back and rewatch some of my videos, you will find stuff that I talked about months ago that's just now being talked about now. But you will find the actual truth about it. Because, Tiffany Marie putting out, oh, well, they weren't traumatized like she's a specialist, like they looked perfectly fine and healthy to me. Well, you know what? They learn to adapt to those police officers while they're in school. And a lot of those police officers work in the school as school resource officers. And that is exactly why the community puts these officers in the school system as school outreach officers, is so these low income children and these children in these drug infested homes have relationships with these school resource officers. That is exactly the point. We used to call them DARE officers. But now, they're in and out the school as school resource officers. We call them RSOs, or no, SROs, school resource officers here now. And that's exactly why they work in the schools every day, is outreach to these kids. So those kids already had a relationship with those said police officers that was up there because they see them every day in the schools. That's why they were comfortable with them. And do you not think as many times as those police officers had been to that residence, that those boys learned and adapted how to talk to those police officers 100 times before? How many times do you think that those police officers were up there and Candace would holler, well, just ask one of my kids, and those kids have to be pulled to the side and explain to those officers what was going on there? I've seen it happen a million times. As a paramedic, these parents pull these kids into these domestic situations, and these officers are taking reports from teenagers and from children as to what happened in the home to explain the situation. I know why these officers are in these schools. It's community outreach. If you look into the grants that these states get and what the governor gives to the schools, there's so much set to the side for kids like that in the programs that are within the schools to develop relationships with poverty stricken and kids that are at risk. Well, it depends on what areas that you're in, whether you agree with that or not. I would have to ask you what area of the United States that you work in, and then at what grade level. By the time they're in high school, by the time they're in junior high, it's a little bit too late for that. And school resource officers are creating a little bit more drama, searching lockers and carrying on. Yeah, see, they're carrying on a different type of thing there in high school than what they're doing in elementary schools. By the time they're in high school, they're aiming at locker searches and bringing in dogs and putting in metal detectors and right around in this area they don't do that. They have an office built into the school. The school resource officers have an office close to the principal's office in the elementary schools, and they're not allowed to sit in their cars and do that. And they have to walk the halls. They have to do so many programs per week with the kids. Well, see, I'm speaking on like an elementary level, getting to know them at a very young level up in a very country setting. But I do know what happens, when they try to bring them in without that sort of relationship just straight into a junior high or high school level. They did try that and it did not work. And that's why they took them back into and reformed the program, and they took them down to an elementary school level and said, okay, well, we're going to start here. And you start developing this relationship with them here. And by the time you get to here, you have a relationship with these kids. And I definitely think so. I definitely think so. Because now, in these schools, we have the counselors in place for these at-risk kids. We have the school resource officers, and they don't call the parents anymore after the first time. They just call CPS. And if the schools call CPS doesn't bother. Well, I'm not going to say they don't bother, but I have seen them just take kids straight out to school before for SA situations and for extreme abuse situations. They don't even wait for the kids to go home that evening and then start an investigation from there. They have taken the kids just straight out of the schools. And then the police be knocking at your door to arrest you. It depends on which end you're looking from. That glass is either half full or it's half empty. I can't wait for it to be over. But there's creators out there that is going to have a drastic drop of income when this case is over. So, I'm asking myself, what it's going to do to that income. Weighed against even what Summer's reward fund is. And the same thing with these people in Beech Creek and Ben Hill Road that's grifting money off of her back, that has bought houses with the donated money from YouTube. There's been a lot of people that's benefited from this child being gone. A lot of people that's benefited from this child being gone. Well, it's like as soon as I wake up, I reached for my phone to look to see if there has been any news of any arrest, if she's been found, before I even go to the bathroom, before I wash my face, before I do anything, I scroll through the news real quick to see if there's anything on Summer. She stole a lot of people's hearts for sure. And I do think that there's some truth to they knew each other before Summer got gone. The whole bunch of them. BK, Ernie. And this just seems to be one big YouTube game, and everybody's watching what's happening on YouTube, and nobody's out there looking for her. And Tim Mullen is controlling the searches. That's happening for Summer. He owns well, I don't know if Don and Candace ever signed anything saying that he has the copyrights to all her photos, but he's downloaded everything into his computer. So, therefore, and he's the media manager. So, say anybody, WJHL comes to him and says, okay, well, we want this video to run. And he says, okay, you can run that. And they pay him. If a different news channel comes to him and says, well, we want to run this, well, no, you can't run that. Well, they don't run it. If CNN, a national news network, comes in and says, well, we want to run this about Summer, can we use this video? He says, no, you can't run that. And he never asked Don, he never asked Candace, he just makes that decision on his own whether that news channel can run that or not. Do y'all realize that Tim Mullins on his own has the power to tell CNN or any other news network no, that they cannot run anything on Summer? That's why only WJHL is the only news channel that's running anything on Summer, and that's because that's where his connections are. Well, that's factual. It's not just a theory, that is fact. You go to the Facebook page, and on the Wells Media Manager and Summers Facebook page and everything, he's got links to his Kingsport. He's got links to his real estate stuff that has nothing to do with summer. So go through there and see how much of his advertisements and his ads alone, and he makes money off of those ads, is on just her Summer Wells page. And they're on the website too. When you go to www.findsummerwells.com or however the website reads, I don't go to that website. But there's ads all over it too. And they all go back to Tim Mullins. But if Fox News wants to cover a story on summer, they go to Tim Mullins. Well, he never asked Don, he never asked Candace, but he has that media because it's in his computer. So therefore it's his. And he says, no, you can't run that. So they don't. So he controls what media gets put out about summer. And it's not fair. Well, he has, yeah, he does, Brock. At one time, you could go to his personal Facebook page, and he had friends there in WJHL. I don't remember who they are now. It's been so long since we found them, but I think it was to the editor or something over at WJHL. Ridiculousness. You know, I thought there for a while, I thought, well, Val, you're just giving Tim Mullins a hard rap. You know, he was government at one time. He may be the undercover person that they have watching Don and Candace, and maybe that's why he doesn't say anything about what they do. Maybe he's just sitting back and watching them hang theirself and handing everything over to the police. And then I watched him as he does things, and then he does stupid things like this, and he controls the search for summer. And I'm thinking, no way, this man is in it only for the money. And then, night before last, I was Googling who the videographer was over at Bays Mountain because I found it funny that all they run is stuff about Egypt, the Orion's Belt, and well, right this minute they're running something on the resurrection. But normally it's just Egypt and Orion's Belt. And, you know, that's all this religion preaches is Egypt and Orion's Belt. But I thought there's got to be a link there, you know. But he has websites set up that can tell him what words are Googled with Kingsport, Tennessee. If you Google planetarium, Kingsport, Tennessee, there's a search engine that picks that up, that tells them the most common things that are Googled with the word Kingsport, Tennessee. and with Rogersville, Tennessee. How many times certain words are Googled with Kingsport, Tennessee. And that way he knows to set up search engines for that. How crazy is that? It is weird. That's weird as fuck. And they were gonna have a kids night or a night for teenagers at the IMAX there, whatever they call that movie theater at the planetarium, and they were going to play Friday the 13th, and this was back in July of 2021. And there was a letter to the planetarium that was printed in the newspaper from Tim Mullins, and he was flat telling them off, and it was like, Marcy has sex with this person, gets an axe to the face. This one has sex with this person and gets an axe to the head. Young boy drowns. Not a family movie. I spend time with my family on Bays Mountain and blah, blah, blah. Certainly hope that you have a change of heart. And he printed this letter in the paper about this person has sex with this person, talking about, the movie. And I mean, he just blessed them out for everything that they were worth in the Kingsport Times. And I thought, wow, he has a lot of pull telling them what movies that they can run and what they can't run. No, I don't have that information. It had the link that he's got. I've got a video over there on it, and it's something about what's so special about Bays Mountain or something. And it's the Mormons link and all the Mormon research that they have done, the LDS research that they have done on that land. And it's where they think that the Egyptians were trading with the Tennesseans through the copper mines and stuff. And they thought that they had found a temple. Well, history says that there may have very well been a trade route through Michigan to the Great Lakes. But as far as the temple being set up and everything, and the temple that they thought that they found on Norris Lake, the archaeologist who said that he discovered this, the man at the Smithsonian refutes his testimony and said that the man had a drinking problem and thought that he had brought in stuff from previous archaeological digs. So the prehistoric Indians that was there on that Cherokee Indian site on Bays Mountain was nothing more than just that, prehistoric Indians. But Tim has it in his mind that they are prehistoric Egyptians that lived here. And if you follow the flat earth theory, if you lay out a map flat, it shows that the Nile River may have run up run up through the United States and up through Tennessee and around. which is the craziest. Look, we know that the world ain't flat, right? Us logical, critical thinkers, we know that the world wasn't flat. But these people that believe in the flat earth theory, if you lay the world out flat, the map out flat, the Nile River would have cut up through the United States and up through Tennessee and then back up through Michigan and all that. I choose to believe what the man at the Smithsonian told said, that there was a letter attached to this research, that the man who'd done this archaeological dig had a drinking problem. And they think that the copper bracelets and stuff that was found had a drinking problem, and that he had brought in stuff and basically faked the finds. What little bit of Egyptian stuff that has been found over here was from a trade route and nothing more. Look, we've got satellites in space that show us that other planets are round. Why wouldn't the Earth be round too? We've got satellites in space that show us the Earth are round. Are they faked? Is that. Well, it happens all the time with archaeologists that make these big finds, um, and these big discoveries, and they write these huge um, thesis papers, and they become famous in the archaeological world, and then later people find that other archaeologists come in behind them and find that the evidence was actually faked, so they could become this big, well-known archaeologist. It happens all the time. Look it up. But that's Tim's obsession with Bays Mountain. He thinks that that Cherokee, that sacred Cherokee site that he talks about, he thinks that that was a sacred site to Egyptians. Well, it wasn't. It's just simply prehistoric Indians. It was not Egyptians. Well, I think they referred to them as Mississippians, the Mississippian era. It was even back before they were known as Cherokee. It was so far back. But like I said, I tend to believe what. Right. I love Robert. Well, and I think Robert has even said what Egyptian ties that we have would have been King Tut's daughter, or not daughter, his sister, leaving Egypt and going to Scotland and marrying a Scottish person, and that is where the red-headed Egyptians come from. I do believe. Is that not right? Because King Tut's sister is supposed to be buried in Scotland. One of his sisters. Right. And that would be the Aryan ties would be from Scotland. And the Canary Islands and but the when Tim on his journey video was climbing that piece of mountain there and he's talking about the layers and the layers left by the flood. Think about the way that he's talking through that, and he's talking like the flood happened right there in Tennessee. And it didn't. The pieces of what they think of the ark has been found over in Turkey. What he's finding over here are parts of the Ice Age. That's what he's finding over here. That's not from the flood. The flood, they said, did not even affect the whole world. That happened over in the Middle East. Well, the reason that they withhold funds from a place is so they can build on top of it. Once they say, yes, we have found something here, then they have to get special permits to build. They have to get archaeologists out there to excavate. They would rather not find anything in a mound or on a mound. Exactly. We've had, like, I remember a time where you could drive through an area out here and you could see like 16 mounds. And we're down to 7 now in one museum. And I think that that is sad. It's terribly sad. And then, you know, it's probably been in the last 15, 20 years, and now you see these same businesses fail. And you know that those businesses are built on top of old Indian mouths, and you go, well, I wonder why that business failed. And it's because that you built that on a sacred site. And of course that business is going to fail. You got bad juju on you now. You deserved that. Really, you deserve that. That's the karma lady coming around to get you. And it would be the same difference as if I went and burnt down a church and built me an ice cream stand on top of the site where I burnt down a church. Well, guess what? All my ice cream's eventually going to melt. Because it's just bad karma. It's just bad juju. Well, my theory still is on this. There was so many of those green dumpsters around where Don was working. If Don did get his hands on her, if they met that day, if they met, the dump is where they should be looking. The most logical place for him to have put her would have been in one of those dumpsters, rolled up or encased in drywall. In one of those green dumpsters that's dumped every day. Why bother digging a hole in a hurry? And this is going on an accident theory. This is just simply going on an accident theory. And if you've got to hurry up and do something, and this is if they met. Why would you go find a hole or find a place to dig a hole when you have a dump that has no cameras? And they have a dump out in Jonesboro too. That one dump that they've shown on YouTube is not the only dump. That's not even the dump that I'm talking about. Don and Candace. Or I have heard about a place. Is there any locals in here that live around that area? I wish that there was a trustworthy local that I could ask about something, but there's really not. Because you can't ask Jody Sue anything. Because every time you ask her something, she's just running the app. You can't ask about Summer. She's running a PayPal app. Which is disgusting in itself. And if there is any, well, I'll tell you what, I'll just try to get hold of Dave Rader. And I'll give the information to him. Because I've heard about a place that the locals use. No, you're not blocked. I see you. I don't block anybody. I have blocked like one person. Oh. The only ones that I block is if I see any of the webcam porn bullcrap or oh, I think I've been blocked over there. Oh yeah, she blocked me a long time. Back when I released her and Andy's text. She blocked me when I released her and Andy's text messages, and I released Andy's her and Andy's arrest records for running a trap house. She didn't want those records released where they had been running a trap house for heroin and LSD and ecstasy. And both of them had weapons when they busted them with all these drugs. And she got pissed when I released that. No, it's not the dumps. Yes, they run that trap house with those kids in that home. And right across the street from where the Wells kids were at. You know, people want to talk about how bad the Wells are. And they are bad. But didn't they hand Jody Sue all this money? And Jody Sue has bought a prefabricated log cabin house to be built in the spring with all this money that she's got from subs off the back of Summer. And this whole time, she has run a trap house across from Summer, bringing in people like these registered offenders. That any of those registered offenders and non-registered offenders could have picked up a kid that was outside playing and took off with them. And yes, Andy's a Mason. I've got pictures of that. And I've also seen pictures of 423 Chase with Andy's mama. I think, and I can't prove this, but think back to this. Cam and Robin Lane lost a grandparent at the same time. So what that tells me is more than likely Cam and Robin Lane is related. Now I cannot prove that, but I do know that they have had family tragedies at the same time. And in that small of an area, it seems like everybody is connected to somebody. And that's another thing. I am tired of him stealing my videos. I want y'all to go look. I released something on that Dave Pilatus, that 411 missing, and a week later he releases the same thing. It's like he had to redo my video, but better. Well, he's got 17 point something thousand viewers. So why did he have to even take my video? Could he not come up with something better? And I'm not one to bitch about petty things, but you know, I use the title Chit Chat a lot on my videos, and last night I was doing a live, and I had to change the title on my video because, like, 15 minutes after I'm into a live with the title Chit Chat, he throws up a live, and his title is Chit Chat. Well, me, stop it. I've tried to be nice. I've really tried to be nice to him. I've got 1.5 thousand followers. That's it. Cracking cases, Aussie lady. And I done that David Pilatus, that missing 411. Just go look at the dates. You'll understand my statement. Go look at my video, the date on it, where I done the missing 411. I said, is summer a missing 411? And I run the Dave Pilatus missing 411. Well, a week later, Cam does the very same thing. He copied my video. And he's done that a couple of times. Done the very same subject that I have done. That David Pilatus video has been out there for 9 months, and nobody touched it until I did. No, I don't remember the kid's last name. It's Cameron something, but it's a kid that used to come up there and play with the boys. It's not the same Cam. The Cam that's on the shed is one of uh, the oldest Wells boys' friends. That's a whole different Cam. Right, Lisa. The name on the shed says Cameron. Cam over at Cracking Cases, his name is Camden. It's not Cameron. Cameron is a kid that used to play with one of the Wells boys. He's about 16 years old. I don't remember his last name. Candace used to refer to him as a stepson. I'm wondering if that is the kid that Jose said was having relations with Allie's daughter while the other kids was watching through a peephole. Right. No, I'm good. I've got candles and I've got something to drink. I've still got water. My water is not affected by the electric being out, so. And they've already got electric back out to the street lights, so it shouldn't be long before we've got electricity. I appreciate. I'm trying not to open the freezer or anything so my food stays frozen. Oh, it's only been off since, I don't know. It was off when I woke up at 1 o'clock, 1 a.m. So, and it wasn't off when I fell asleep about 8, 9 o'clock. So it hasn't really been off that long. And so it doesn't usually take them long because there's some elderly people that live on this street and they're oxygen dependent. So it's a priority that they get electricity back up to the people that's oxygen dependent. And luckily for Miss Cookie, I've got one of those old hand type can openers. So I can get her breakfast open without the electric can opener. So she's good. As long as she doesn't miss breakfast. She's what matters the most. I don't have a. It's been many moons since I've had a kitty cat. There was a stray that was coming up on the porch, and I don't know what happened to it. I guess one of the neighbors let it in. So I don't know anything about kitty cat food. Wet dog food has been the brand that she uses. I use the Purina one, and the certain flavor she likes the duck. It's been hard to find here lately. I've had to go a couple of places. Man, Wild Fox, there's no such thing as 69-cent pet food anymore. I've been paying almost $2 a can for her dog food. It runs on sale like $1.69 a can. Well, I use the Iams dry dog food, and I mix like a half a can of the wet food in with the dry food. So she gets a half a can for breakfast and a half a can for supper. And she's so fat, she looks like a Peterbilt truck coming through. I tell you what, before I pay $7 a gallon for milk, I'll just have to go buy me a cow and milk that thing, I guess. That's ridiculous. Yeah, Cookie. Oh, wow. I ain't paying no $7 for milk. Mm-mm. I bought a half a gallon of milk like 4 days ago, and I probably haven't used a half a cup of it. I just don't use a lot of milk. That would probably be about right, Fox, because I gave almost $3, I guess, for a half a gallon. It's like 2.54 or something like that. But I know that I did give like 2.50 for a quart of chocolate milk. I don't think that that's a mound, Lisa. I really don't. Um, Tim Mullen thinks that it's shaped like Mount Sinai. You know, where Moses received the Ten Commandments. And that's the deal about Don's property and why Tim Mullins wants that property so bad. But it's only because it appears to look like Mount Sinai. So again, if you're a flat earther and you are looking at all of that and Don's property looks like Mount Sinai from Bays Mountain, looking over to Don's property and that one hill sticking up and it appears to be Mount Sinai. And they're looking at the end times and they're looking at the new beginning or the reawakening or whatever they call it. And they're preparing for that great awakening or whatever, then that's what's so special to them about this so-called property. And Carl has some good information over there too. The church wants that property for the Great Awakening. And Tim is part of that church. It's 360 Scope Work is the name of the website. And it's not people that want to disappear. It helps erase your digital footprints is what it does. And he ain't too good at it. Exactly, Litlow. It's 360 Scope Work is the name of the website. And I wouldn't be clicking on websites that's built by Tim Mullins, to tell you the truth, because I think it gives out your IP address and location and everything else. But what it does is it erases he helps erase your digital footprints. It's not that he helps people disappear per se. It helps you disappear online. But if he has got up websites to where he can tell What words are Googled? And this is why I don't use Google. But what words are Googled with Kingsport, Tennessee? Like how many times planetarium has been Googled with Kingsport, Tennessee? How many times the word Summer Wells has been Googled with Kingsport, Tennessee? How many times Tim Mullins, the name Tim Mullins has been Googled with Kingsport, Tennessee, or any word with Kingsport, Tennessee? If he's got something built that he can tell what words are used with or in conjunction with Kingsport, Tennessee. And he does, because I've seen it. He's into making digital footprints, not erasing them. Exactly. And that way he can build more websites using those search terms. It's like the misinformation that was put out about Summer's name. How many times do you think people searched for Summer Moon Bly or birth records for Summer Moon Bly or Summer Bly? He made a fortune. And now you really ain't heard nothing else about it. And like I said, you've got all this over here on YouTube, all this noise, and nobody's out here looking for her. And you've got Tim over here not putting anything out on the national news media, telling CNN and Fox News and everybody else, no, they can't run her story. Only WJHL can run her story. Good night, Lupus. And I guess what we all need to do, and not just a few of us, a couple hundred of us, needs to show up in Kingsport outside his office with signs for CNN and for Fox News, and invite Fox News and expose him for what he's doing. That's the only thing I know to do, because Candace and Don are not going to do anything. Neither of them care enough to do anything. You know, I put out whose voice that was on that milk video, and nobody else has cared to say a word about it. I've told who it was, and nobody else has said a word about it. Right? And when News Nation and Brian Enton come out there, they were run off. Benny beat him off with a stick, like a good assistant media manager would do. Did he? Right. Jody Sue's trap house and Andy's trap house just keeps getting swept under the rug. Now I'm looking for a man that runs around with Marlena Crawford that goes by the name of Andy Paul. Different Andy. Different one from Jody Sue's Andy. Let's get away from that Andy for a minute and let's go to a different Andy. Say that there was another Andy on that hill. Or around that hill. One that hasn't been found and brought to light yet that keeps getting swept under the rug with the rest of these people. And I believe that there was. And he hangs around with Marlena Crawford. And he goes by the name of Andy Paul. I need a last name for him. Maybe Anthony. His name may be Anthony Paul, but he goes by Andy. Because remember, Hunter said Anthony, Andy, Randy, Andy, Anthony, something like that. But this guy's name is Anthony Paul, and he goes by Andy. I don't know. I just gave you what information that I had on him. Paul. P-A-U-A. P-A-U-L. Paul. I quit following Penny when she left True Crime Commentary and went with Benny. I don't even listen to Penny anymore. So I don't know who she was talking to. I don't know, but I've not listened much on that recent Linda stuff. But I did find another doctor that was connected to the Seventh Day Adventist, who was also an airman with the Young Inventors, Aviators program. That flies these kids and gives them lessons and so forth. And that has been to about 50 different states. But it was Dr. Patrick Vincent, not Bruce Vincent. But strangely enough, he's also connected to a Christy Vincent somehow. But I just started the research on these people. Yes. Strange enough, right? And you know, I put all these names out to these prominent people months ago, and it just befuzzles me that nobody cross-referenced them. Before they funneled money. Or accepted money. You know, my first clue with Chase was how fast he talked, with how slow he talked, how he walked back and forth, and in circles, and never showed his face. But yet people were willing to send and send and send. I'm not sending my money to anybody if I can't see your face. And I'm not sending my money to anybody I don't know. I just, there was just so many red flags there. And there's so many red flags with other people too that I see funneling money. And I've tried calling them out, and people tell me, you know, it's up to me who I send my money to. It's not your business. So, and I guess they're right. Well, I was watching one of his videos this morning, and I said something about Molly Golightly and Jonathan Lee Ritchie's padding the pockets and passing money to Allie and Sherry in one of the videos. And I was told to be quiet, not say anything else nasty about Molly Golightly. Whoa, wait a minute. Well, I left the chat. I just left. Because for one, I didn't say anything nasty about her. But I did call out the fact that she has been seen giving money to people, to witnesses, for stories to make videos. And how can you 100% believe what somebody says when they have been paid to say things for a video? That is my point. You're out here paying witnesses to say things for your video, for your clicks and your views. So you're also altering their reliability to testify against these suspects. And we shouldn't be doing that. Tiffany Marie has aided Jody Sue Brown. Well, not just Tiffany Marie, a lot of them have. Just as people have took up for Molly Golightly and Jonathan Lee Ritchie's padding the pockets of Sherry and Allie, and it's just not right, because these same people needed to be used in a grand. We're sitting back here and we want Hawkins County to take the Wells and indict them, right? That's what we want more than anything, is justice for Summer. But the very people that we need to testify to a grand jury is now tainted. And they're tainted by YouTubers padding their pockets with money for videos. Well, I'm not saying that she's a bad person. I mean, I've talked to her. I've followed her. I am not a follower. I've listened to her. Let me put it like that. But Jody Sue is guilty of running a trap house, her and Andy both. Her text messages to Andy that day does not match up with what she said. I don't care how you twist it. I don't care what you add to it later, but those text messages is why law enforcement says the scream is unfounded. I spoke with law enforcement. I know what I was told. Sure, Brock, but money should not be passed because that taints them from being used in grand jury testimony. No, she admitted that those text messages were real, Brock. She was asleep, and the sound that she heard, she told Andy, was woodcutters outside. And Bullhorn paid Dudley, and Bullhorn is tied up with Ernie. And Bullhorn is using her subs' money for vacations to South Carolina. All these YouTubers think that they are smart enough, they're going to trick Candace into saying something. And they're going to be the ones that solves this case. Well, they're not. And like I said, look at all this money flying around that equals a hell of a lot more than what Summer's little bitty reward fund is. So why would they want the case to be solved at this point when they can pull in more in 7 days than what they can pull in off her reward fund? And then once she's found, that's over. Where is their gravy train coming from then? Morning, Rhonda. And I know that I'll have backlash coming from this video from everybody. And I really don't care because you know what? I'm being honest. And I've not been paid one super chat for saying what I feel. I have not been paid one Cash App. I have not run my Cash App. I have not paid. I have not run my PayPal. That I am just being 100% honest. And you know what? At least I can get on a live and be 100% real with my subs without running a Cash App or a PayPal the whole time. At least I can get on here and talk to my subs like they are my friends and like they are my family for 2 hours and just spend time with y'all without begging for damn money. That's a shame, Leanne. Send it to me. I'll put it out there. I don't care to put it out there. Because I'm about the truth and I'm about what's best for Summer. And all this damn money flying around is not what's best for them. Tell me what Summer is benefiting. Or you tell me what these people are doing for Summer that's sitting back collecting all this money. What are they doing for Summer? What are they doing for Summer's brothers? And even if they were trying to defend Candace and all this, well, I'm not even seeing them set up a defense fund for Candace with all these thousands of dollars. I'm seeing nothing except pockets being padded. And I am so tired. Right. And I've heard people say, "Oh, well, this is just the way people live here." No, it's not. No, it's not. This Look, my grandparents raised 7 kids in a two bedroom house. It was crowded and it was small, and that's the way a lot of Appalachian families are or were. But there's a difference in being crowded and having a small home and being filthy. I've seen my grandma make handmade lye soap. And that's what we used when we were young, when we were little, was handmade lye soap because we couldn't afford store made bar soap. And that was one thing that my grandma would never have tolerated was filthiness. You might be crowded and you may have a small home, but there was no excuse for filthiness. When I was in school, there was a time when my two youngest kids had to share a bedroom, and they thought that it was the end of the world because they had to share a bedroom. We was in between homes, and which it didn't last long, but yes, that place was small, and my two youngest kids had to share a bedroom, but that house was clean, and we made do with what we had. It was a trailer, matter of fact, it wasn't even a house. We made do with what we had until I could do better for them. And that was when they were little bitty humans. That wasn't even in recent times. But we were not filthy. We were not overrun with animals that we couldn't take care of. So, no, people don't just, people here do not just, that's not what you would expect to see if you were an outsider traveling through here or if you were a visitor here. That is not what I want people to expect to see. And like I've said before, I have seen cluttered up homes to where we could not even get the gurneys in to get patients because the houses were so cluttered or they were just so full. But that kind of filth you only normally see with drug addicts or alcoholics or a combination of both or or mentally unstable people or a combination of the three. Ex- exactly. They're not even from Tennessee. None of them. So they should not even be representing people from the Appalachian Mountains. People say, oh, listen to the way that they talk. Well, I guess they picked that, they picked that up from just being around so long, or they're really good at acting because they're they're not from there. And I'm going to say this. I have attempted to watch more of Jody Sue Brown's videos. And I went through one to where it was almost a solid hour of her just staring at the screen. She might have said two sentences, maybe three, in the whole hour. And there was close to 86 people in the chat. And I want to know what the mental state of those 86 people are that is just staring blankly back at her. That has to say a lot for people that can stare back into a screen at somebody for almost an hour waiting for somebody to say something. What does that say about the people that is just sitting there hanging, waiting for her to speak? Like she is going to say something life changing. Oh, there's generational abuse on both sides. But yeah, if I've got to say something about Jody Sue subs, I just want to ask each and every one of you, what are you waiting on? The Holy Ghost? Because there was almost 100 of you staring back blankly for almost an hour. Because I watched to see. I kept, just skipping through and skipping through and skipping through. And I kept checking the live chat just to see how many was still watching. Because I thought, surely to God, these people are going to start dropping off. And a few did. And a few did. And after an hour and 26 minutes, there was still 86 people in there. And I thought, Jesus Christ, come to life, because these people are just staring back as blankly as she's staring into the screen. What is going on? What is going on here? I'm sorry. Right, Wild Fox. I mean, ooh. Anyway, that's all I've got to say on that subject. Uh, and the whole time donating money to her PayPal fund, to her drug fund, to her pill fund, I guess. I think hers is called the head drops or the head nods or something. That's from them oxys, man. They'll do it to you every time. I like Crystal too. Well, used to I would sit back and I wouldn't say anything. But she attacked on me pretty hard first. And said some stupid bullshit about the Ride of the Valkyries or something. I don't know what it was. And then she blocked me to where I couldn't even defend myself. Well, honey, my chat's open. If she wants to come over here and she feels like she can defend herself from that, let her go right ahead. And the reason she blocked me was just as I said, was because I posted on her trap house charges Andy's house charges, and her and Andy's text back and forth on June the 15th. And she got so mad. First, she accused me of stealing them from her Facebook page. I don't even have Facebook. A sub dropped those to me and asked to remain anonymous, and to this day, I will not tell who the sub was that gave them to me. And she got pissed off, and she sent trolls over here to attack my page, and I still wouldn't tell who the sub was. And nobody stole them from her Facebook page. And the trap house charges I found on my own. And she still got charges in another county that I haven't posted on. And I urge anybody that don't know what a trap house is to go Google it. Find out exactly what happens in trap houses and really examine what that is. And then ask yourself, if there was a child that was playing on the road, and if somebody was leaving a trap house that was an offender, would it be possible for something to happen to that child while they were leaving a trap house? And I don't know that that's what happened to Summer. I'm just saying, anything at this point is possible because we don't know anything. We're all just going on theories. But for some reason, Jody Sue just stays inserted. Even if it is just sleeping on lives, she stays inserted, running that PayPal app constantly, sucking, even if it's just $1. She's sucking money off of Summer's back while she puts down the rest of us. And calls us tragedy pimps. Well, she must be the ringleader. It was heroin, ecstasy, and LSD, I believe, was what it was. It was 3 different drugs. And see, that's drugs that we have not heard of. We've heard meth, cocaine, and marijuana. Heroin has kind of been brought up with Don and Candace. And that leads to question, well, who are they getting it from? Well, Jody Sue's already said that her husband brings in pounds of that shit. I heard her clearly with my own ears. She was talking about the KKK in a pop-up meeting. And that goes hand in hand with Mason crap. And I believe Marlena Crawford is related to Andy anyway. Or I know she is. And this other Anthony Andy Paul that I'm looking for is connected to Marlena Crawford. They're all nasty. Miss Cookie's awake. She probably wants to be taken outside. What are you doing? The KKK used to do their marches all over Tennessee. They would even go and hold um, things outside of the University of Knoxville. And I think TWP was the name of the group that was loosely affiliated with them. Don't remember what the TWP stood for now. But when they do when they initiate somebody into their group, they have this thing where they run them through the woods and the other members chase them and they find them. And I don't know exactly what they do, but I know they have some sort of initiation in the woods from what I've heard by talking to people and doing a little bit of research. They scare them real bad and put them in situations to see if they're going to talk and rat on the other person, or scare them so bad to see if they're going to leave and run off on them and stuff like that. And the perfume also keeps down on not being able to be found in the woods when people are chasing you through the woods. Does that make sense? There was a group of KKK right across the line there in North Carolina known as the LWK. And no matter what letters they go by, they are still KKK, bottom line. And it was like, that stood for Little White Knights instead of I don't even know. Oh, instead of Ku Klux Klan, it was the Little White Knights. And now, see, that's how they stay hidden, is they go by these different letters instead of the brand name. All right, Leanne, if you look up LWK, which is Little White Knights, they are still Ku Klux Klan. They just go by a different affiliation name. And they are right across the North Carolina border. And you know, Tennessee and North Carolina border each other right there. Now, I'm not saying that that is the organization that she is with. That is just the closest organization that I have found of Ku Klux Klan. But that's how they keep from being found on the internet. When people just Google KKK, it doesn't come up because they go by these different names. I think they would have to actually be married for her to be an Eastern Star, and she claims that they are not married. Come on, Cookie, you need to go out. You need to go outside. Now you're just gonna sleep in your chair. And from what research that I've done on the Masons, I do believe that there would have to be a marriage certificate presented for her to be associated with them. So I just don't know. And I would go as far as saying that, well, she has something mixed in her or something. She claims that she's not. But they started allowing that back several years ago. So I just don't know. But I know Masons are all about paperwork. You got to have that paperwork. You got to have that paperwork. Because they are serious about their records. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it's like that Suburban. When she told everybody she heard the Suburban going up the driveway instead of the Trailblazer. Well, when I questioned her about it, she said, well, I meant to say Trailblazer went up the driveway. She said, but for some reason my brain just spit out Suburban. She said, but oh well, what difference does it make? Suburban, Trailblazer. So, you know, people put out that it was the Suburban that went up the driveway. instead of the Trailblazer. Well, it does make a difference when they're looking for the Suburban surveillance cameras now instead of the Trailblazer. So it makes a lot of difference whether you tell the truth when you put out something. But people hang on every word that she says is fact when she puts something out. It's like she put out, well, Andy thinks that they killed Jose and Don's white truck belongs to Jose. And that's where Don come up with the white truck at. Well, I run the registration on that white truck long before she said that. And I knew that the white truck didn't belong to Jose. And I knew it didn't come from Jose. And I knew that she wasn't telling the truth about that. But that was colorful to throw in there, right? Oh, you've missed 178 minutes worth of stuff. You might want to watch it on 3 by. So it does make a difference what you put out as fact. And when you've got 100 people sitting there waiting on you to say something that they expect as fact so they can run and be the first ones to put it out, it makes a difference. So she doesn't know if it was the Suburban or the Trailblazer that went back up that driveway. If you believe Fred Hill, there was a pull up that week. I don't know the answer to that. Sorry about this. I've got to find my cord. My phone is running out of power here. I've got a power bank down here. It might have a little bit of juice in it. No. Let's see. Hang on just a second, guys. Well, if we lose power, if I do run out of power, we'll just have to pick up again when my power comes back on and I can charge my devices. I have heard that Fred Hill isn't reliable, but with the family wars that goes on in that holler, some of what he says may be the truth. I don't know. Hey, you can't see me. I can see you. Shoot, my car might have been took in that flood. You don't know. My car might be up on Ben Hill Road. Hey, Rhonda. That big flood that the Great Awakening's been waiting for. Freaking crazy people. That you asked what you've missed. That's pretty much what I have been fussing on all night is insane people. Just because I try to put out the facts of what people believe, draw some of the craziest remarks and the craziest comments in my chat. You know, I was like last night or night before last chat where I had put up the links to what they believe, or not links, but just what they believe, and how I linked it to Osiris and Orion's belt. And just some of the crazy remarks that it. Hey, we Scottish Mall. And people was. I had one comment. Call TBI. They're going to release sarin gas up on that hill, and it's going to cause a great flood across the nation. And why don't you call TBI with that? Because I'm certainly not. If you know all this is fact, you call them. I'm not. Don't come at me with that just because I put out what these people do believe. Look, these people are out of control. And sadly, you know, when this cult mentality does set into people's minds in these small communities, it is amazing what it can cause. It's absolutely nuts. It's like I was telling y'all around in this area, you know, we have the people who play with the snakes in the churches and the chaos that it causes on us paramedics. And generation after generation after generation, it's just now starting to ease off and get better. And it's because we have had to pass state laws against even keeping the different kinds of snakes. It has went that far that we have had to make it illegal to even possess the wildlife of the different kinds of snakes that the churches likes to keep. And it's bad that you have to find a way, because there is supposed to be a separation of church and state, right? So you have to find a way to cap it on a level that it does not infringe on these people's rights to believe what they want to believe. So you have to go as far as saying, okay, it is illegal for anybody to possess wildlife snakes, and then classify these snakes down to, okay, these canebrake rattlers, they fall into this category. These timber rattlers, they fall into this category. the copperhead snakes, they fall into this category, and they go all the way up to Class A felonies for possession. And you've got to have special license, you know, to even breed these snakes or be in possession of them to make anti-venom. And it's because these snake handlers, and people's heard me talk on this before. I don't know if y'all are the same group of subs that's heard me speak on this before, but you know, these people they handle these snakes in church, and they think, well, if I'm right with God, the venom won't hurt me. Well, these snakes were 9 foot long, 6 foot long. When it bits you, they call paramedics out there and they say, oh, well, if I'm right with God, this won't hurt me. And the whole time we've got to sit here and watch this venom go through this person's body and wait for them to pass out, and then for a family member to make a decision whether we can take them to a hospital or not. And most of the time not. They just pray over them and lay hands on them and, oh, God's going to heal him. And then you're scared to death the whole time you're standing in this church, and you've got this creepy feeling and hair standing up on the back of your head thinking, oh my God, when he got bit and he dropped this snake, is this snake loose in this church? And is it going to come out on me somewhere? And it's just a freaky feeling. Well, see, Leanne, they had to pass laws too. They was letting kids handle them, and they had to pass state laws saying that kids under 18 could not even handle the snakes. And if a kid got bit under 18, then they pulled every kid out of that church into CPS custody. And the parents didn't get them back because it had happened so much over and over and over in the same families, because it was generational. It was like each church that was established had so many different family members in the churches. It was wild for a while. People were coming out of states. They would come over from Georgia, and they would come down out of Tennessee, and they would have these big, huge revivals. And they would have carloads of snakes with them. Just, you could see them coming in these big vans and stuff, and you just knew what they were coming for. Yeah, I think Missouri is one of the only states left now that they can possess those snakes. So they come over there now. And they come in groups and droves. I said it was Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, and now it's moved to Arkansas and Missouri. And they move together in families. Yeah, that was on the other side of the state from me, where the preacher had his wife down in the snake pit, and she lived with the snakes. And then when she got out the snake pit, he stuck her hand into a cage and the snake bit her, but she didn't die. But she lived in a snake pit for a long time. I don't know how, but she did. She learned to get along with them rattlers. Insanity. Alright guys, I am fixing to lose power on my phone. So I will just end the live, and that will give everybody a chance to go back to the beginning and try to catch up and scan through. And let's just pray, since this is a resurrection weekend, that Don gets his wish and his daughter is resurrected this weekend, and we do see Summer. Maybe she will magically appear somehow. Don't know how, but let's hope for it. And please quit sending money to these people. Anybody you know out there that is sending money to anybody for any reason that is scamming off the backs of these kids, try to discourage them from doing so. Because Summer's not benefiting from it. Her brothers aren't benefiting from it. It's only buying these people new houses and new cars. And if you yourself are not living in a house that's paid for and your car is not paid for, don't contribute to somebody else's being bought and paid for off the back of a little girl that's missing. But I love you guys, and I'll see you later. No, just Andy Paul, or Anthony Paul. Andy Paul. And he hangs around with that Marlena Crawford. But I love you guys. See you later.